Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Willcott. Thank you for joining us. Here we go, a moment to shine a light on the youngest victims among us. Of course, people who know me and don't know, my heart goes out to any children who are struggling with violence, especially from the people who should love them the most, their parents and their families. Right now, we want to talk about two of these youngest victims, Harmony Montgomery and baby Noah Tomlin. We have a special guest to join the conversation, forensic psychiatrist and body language expert, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Carole, thanks for joining us. Stand by.
Thank you.
Because first we want to talk about new developments in the case of missing 8-year-old Harmony Montgomery. The welfare fraud charge against her stepmother has been dropped. Harmony Montgomery was only 5 when she disappeared in late 2019. Custody of that little girl had been granted to her father, Adam Montgomery, just a few months before she disappeared. Kayla Montgomery, the stepmother, was initially charged with welfare fraud for obtaining $1,500 worth of food stamps for Harmony while Harmony, this child, was missing. A judge dropped the charge this week because, get this, the deadline for a grand jury indictment had passed, a technicality. Kayla still has several other charges pending. We want to go from one case without accountability to a case where the perp actually was held accountable. Earlier this week, we told you about the mother of baby Noah, sentenced to 55 years in prison for his murder. Julia Tomlin, the mother, pled guilty last December to abusing, killing, and hiding the decomposing body of her 2-year-old son. Police in Hampton, Virginia found Noah Tomlin's body at a steam plant back in July of 2019 after they spent 1 week of searching. Our affiliate WTKR has more on the background of this heartbreaking story.
With her head hung low, 37-year-old Julia Tomlin sits ready to admit that she brutally murdered her 2-year-old son.
Julia Leanna Tomlin unlawfully and feloniously did kill and murder Noah Tomlin.
With bright blue eyes, 2-year-old Noah Tomlin, a thriving toddler, left this earth unrecognizable.
Imagine a baby with missing limbs, missing body parts, and a skull with just a few hair strings.
Officers searched thoroughly.
Over the course of 15 minutes, Commonwealth's attorney Anton Bell laying out the horrific demise of the autistic boy.
This community, if you remember, were out for days, all over a week, scouring this city, looking for him.
June 24th, Tomlin reports Noah missing from their Buckrow Beach mobile home. A massive search ensues.
They've had drones out here. They've had dogs out here.
Days later, Tomlin changes her story, stating Noah drowned in the bathtub while she was high on heroin.
This 2-year-old had died horrifically at the hands of the mother, who had given a story that the child had drowned and that we were all looking for this child.
It was the second of 2 lies she told as the frantic summer search for Noah continued. But when investigators entered her home,
there was blood on the wall. There was blood on his sheets. There was blood on his T-shirt.
Tomlin was arrested for murder, even as Noah's body was still missing. Days later, the little boy's body was found in an unimaginable place, stuffed in a diaper box and triple bagged, decomposing at the Hampton steam plant.
You're going through literally millions of pounds of garbage. It takes tolls.
Tomlin stated a friend disposed of the body. An autopsy would reveal more horrors.
The injuries were likened to someone falling several stories from a building.
Noah's aunt proclaiming Julia's innocence, saying Noah's death was just an accident.
She passed out from the heroin after putting him to bed, and that she didn't wake up in time. And he tried to crawl out of the crib and fell onto the toy chest that was next to the crib.
But Bell says the truth is clear. He was beaten to death, stuffed in a box, and dumped like trash.
I don't really call this case justice. I call it accountability. This community mourned and is still mourning the loss of Noah.
Joining me now, Carole Lieberman. I know you were on standby for me. Thank you, doctor, for that. Listen, I have done child welfare for a very, very long time. I am drawn to the gunfire of protecting children, but here's what I don't get. Why does this happen again and again and again? Why do parents continue to not just abuse their children, but then in this case, not only kill, murder the child, but cut the child up? I don't understand.
Well, it's called filicide, and in this case, maternal filicide. And in a general sense, it has to do with, let's just say mothers, since we're talking about this case, has to do with mothers having self-loathing. And what they do to their child is really the rage that they have towards themselves, and they act it out on the child. And there are typically 5 kinds of motives. And really, in this case, any or all of them could apply. The first one is an altruistic motive. It's where the mother believes that the child is better off dead. Now, in her twisted mind, on heroin and so on, she could have thought that he was better off dead. Noah was better off dead because he had autism, and certainly she was in no way able to handle an autistic child. Another motive is, or a scenario, is when the mother is psychotic. So, for example, the mother could be hearing command hallucinations saying to do this, to kill your baby or to beat up your baby. Another motive is fatal maltreatment. And that also is what they found. They found evidence of child abuse, chronic child abuse. So where you're not really planning to kill the child, but all of this maltreatment ultimately results in his death. And then an unwanted child, taking out anger towards that. And the interesting one is spousal revenge. Now, in this case, the father of this child, a family member had contacted the father of the child just weeks before this happened, before she killed him. But he hadn't contacted her. He said that in 2017, he suspected that he was the father, but that she had told him, no, you're not, and I don't want you to have anything to do with him. Don't ever call me again. So he didn't. But then a few weeks before, a family member saw that he was beginning to resemble the father. And the father still didn't do anything about it, and now he's saying everybody's blaming me and they shouldn't blame me because I wasn't told. But quite frankly, if you thought you might be, I think really he should have done more earlier on to find out if he was.
Well, sure, I agree with you. I think that's always the case. And unfortunately, too many men are either not identified as the father by the mother or are told, oh, it's not yours, regrettably, for fathers of children. I want to bring out this additional little fact, and that is this mother, there were 9 siblings of Noah. And one of those siblings, this mother's daughter, testified, I want her to get the maximum penalty because she abused us. He got the worst of it. Noah got the worst of it. That's what the own daughter said. And 55 years. She's been sentenced to 55 years. That's the max on the charges that she was facing. And I must tell you, as a former judge here in Georgia, unfortunately, frequently, even for murder, there are individuals, mothers, who do not get the maximum. So from my perspective, it's a good thing that she got the maximum because she pled guilty. Look what she did to this little boy. But does it make a difference to our system, in your opinion, Dr. Lieberman, for people to hear that she got the maximum, that there are severe consequences and accountability when you do this to your child?
Yes, I think it does help for people to hear that you can get punished that seriously. Of course, a lot of times, like the reasons that I mentioned, they're not logical. And so mothers aren't necessarily thinking, well, let's see, I better not do this because I could get 55 years. But yes, I mean, she certainly deserved it. Probably, I'm not sure if they took into consideration the fact that she had been abused physically and sexually and emotionally abused when she was a child, and also by a boyfriend when she was a teenager. So maybe that was, of course, she got the maximum, so they couldn't have taken it into consideration that much. But yes, it does help. I mean, she certainly, one good thing is for 55 years, she's not going to be able to have any other children.
Well, I don't know, you say that, but women have children in prison all the time. So I'm not even convinced that may not happen. But let's talk about somebody who did defend this defendant, who said, oh, no, she didn't do this, couldn't have done this. Let's listen a little bit to Noah's aunt, sister-in-law, who testified.
I've witnessed Noah bashing his head into the crib. He has spectral autism, and he would throw himself in the furniture. He would hit, every time he went to bed, he would hit his head and hit part of himself into the side of the crib. And the reason why she stopped The reason why the last time she saw him was at 1:30 in the morning is because she started holding him at night so that he would stop. Because the doctor said they couldn't do anything until he was old enough to be tested for it. She didn't know what to do. And I know Tim Cartwell. He was every bit full of the capacity for evil that you could imagine.
So you're blaming him instead of your sister?
No, I'm saying that it was an accident.
So even despite all the blood and evidence that was found inside the home?
I believe that what happened was she passed out from the heroin after putting him to bed, and that she didn't wake up in time, and he tried to crawl out of the crib and fell onto the toy chest that was next to the crib.
All right, Dr. Lieberman, what do you think of sister-in-law's belief that it was an accident?
She wants to believe that, but there was evidence of chronic abuse. You know, there were rib fractures, there was a jaw fracture, there was evidence that this just didn't happen in this one final event. So, you know, yes, it is very difficult to have those kinds of behaviors and to try to control them and so on, and certainly beyond the capacity of this woman who was, you know, on heroin. But that doesn't mean that she shouldn't be responsible for what happened.
Right, absolutely. She did get the maximum sentence, and I just have to reiterate what I always say, which is see something, say something. If you suspect any abuse of a child, please report it. I have to say goodbye to you, Dr. Carole Lieberman. I always appreciate all of your expertise. Thank you again for joining us for Youngest Victims today.